Hey everybody, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and this is a message to you, Kevin Wang. I defeated you, buddy. I won. I played the game. It might have taken a little bit of my soul, but I did it. I managed to get the EBR 75 FL10 on my Plays for Free account without spending anything at all. And today I'm going to let you know exactly how long it took me to be able to complete this marathon, how upping the amount of World of Tanks made me feel, and whether I think it was worth it. So firstly, I'm going to be using the fantastic QBWOT replays analyzer to be able to get statistics of all of the games that I played to be able to complete this marathon. Now firstly, I want to discuss one limitation about using this program, and that is that you can only lift the statistics of games that you watched until the very end. And so all of the red games you see here are ones that I guess I died in and then I left the battle to go and play another game, because you want to try and get in as many games as possible when you've got to play hundreds. And talking about hundreds, yeah, the final tally was 580, ladies and gents. That's how many games it took me to be able to get this vehicle for free. And funnily enough, that was actually quite close to what I thought it was going to take me. As I suggested, I thought I was going to get about 600 average base experience points on my free-to-play account, and 600 average base experience points would require 602 battles. So it looks like I was just over that, between the 600 and 700 average experience mark. But interestingly, I thought it was going to take me 46 hours to be able to complete this marathon. And that's because I presumed that the average length of a game in World of Tanks is 5 minutes. But the actual average of all of the games that I played was 5 minutes and 47 seconds. And so taking this into account, my actual hours played of in-game time was 55 hours. But remember, one thing that doesn't take into account is the 30 seconds at the start of the battle while you're waiting for everybody to join, and possibly the 30 seconds at the end of the battle when you look at the statistics and then you click battle in another tank at the top of the screen. And this, by the way, ladies and gents, is absolutely terrifying. And that is that if you play 580 games of World of Tanks, like I did on my free-to-play account over the last couple of weeks, that 30-second countdown timer at the start of the battle was nearly 5 hours of watching. This statistic absolutely blew my mind, and it made it so that it actually took me closer to 60 hours to be able to complete this mission marathon. And that's just an absolute crazy realization for me, that over the last couple of weeks I've literally spent 5 hours waiting for the battle to begin. Now I understand that a lot of the slower computers will be loading in, and you should try and use that first 30 seconds of the battle to analyze your team setup, the enemy's team setup, and to try and create a plan. But still, if Wargaming were only to change that from 30 seconds down to 20 seconds, it would literally have saved me 2 hours of my life over the last couple of weeks. Ridiculous. So now I want to talk about how the marathon made me feel and some of the realizations that I've had from playing such an intense period of World of Tanks on a free-to-play account. This was definitely challenging from a mental standpoint. I have to admit, on some days I kind of really went into my groove and I kind of blinked and I'd been playing for 6 hours, which was bizarre. But at other times, I truly just kept saying in my head, I'm done, I'm done, I'm done. I cannot be bothered to keep playing this. But luckily, I was disciplined enough to be able to push through this, to be able to just keep putting in those hours consistently. And I think consistently putting in the hours is something that's so important. For me, I came up with this plan, for example, towards the end, that I saw that you were going to get a day of premium for finishing stage 8 and a day of premium for finishing stage 9. So what I did is I played for 12 hours one day and then I took a day off, and I made sure that I got it up to just about to complete one of the stages to be able to get that premium day at the start of the next day's play session. And so what this effectively allowed me to do is actually to spread these 3 days of premium that Wargaming rewarded us with through intense bursts of play, which actually allowed me to make a decent amount of credits. And talking about a decent amount of credits, just in the games that we see, and I bet you it's about half of them, I made 6,700,000 credits. Now, I know that's not a lot for somebody who has a premium account, is using credit boosters, and has a tier 8 premium account, but keep in mind, that is all with standard tier 6, 7, and 8 tanks. Interestingly enough, out of this 6.7 million credits, I spent 1.2 million on repairing my vehicles, and 1.4 million on ammunition ammunition, which resulted in a total profit of 4 million. That's in the half the games. So I think literally over those 580 games I played, pretty much free to play, we made about 8 million credits. In addition to this, I started with a P43, which didn't have any of the modules unlocked, and now I've got a Pantera, and I'm getting pretty close to having even the top engine on a Pantera, which would be great if I want to try and play this in the frontline game mode. And so there was definitely some fantastic progress on the account, and the account's now in a really good position, to be honest. Loads of credits, a variety of competitive tanks from tier 6 up to tier 8, and even the win ratio, the WN8, and even some of the marks of excellence that we have on these tanks are starting to come together. Next, I want to touch on the things that I feel were absolutely crippling going back to being a free-to-play player. Number one, garage slots. The idea of having to sell vehicles to be able to buy new ones. You can see why Wargaming definitely keep making like £1 every time you want to buy a new tank, because you need that gold to be able to purchase a slot. Next, barrack slots. Barrack slots were absolutely brutal, aka I just kept running out of them. But little tips and tricks that I used to be able to make this manageable are, for example, I took rental tanks that I had from using bonus codes last year, and I put crew members inside them as sort of extra barrack slots. And if you right click the vehicle and you click set as reserve, then you can even filter them out of your garage, so you can not have to sit there and look at them cluttering up your hangar if you hate the look of it. But without a doubt, the biggest disadvantages of being a free-to-play player are having to play through tank stock. When, for example, I got my KV3 for the first time, and I was trying to play through it with the 107mm that I had unlocked from the T150. It was disgusting trying to play this tank without having the top engine and the tracks. It was just an absolute slug, and unless you get into the right map and the right situation, there was practically nothing that you could do. Another thing that I noticed is that unless you put equipment on your tanks, they feel completely horrific as well, and you're just constantly losing those 1 versus 1 engagements against fully equipped tanks, as they're going to be able to reload faster than you, or they're going to be able to see further than you. And so the more that I think about it, equipment really is not optional on these vehicles. You have to have them if you want to be able to be competitive, and there's no doubt that your average damage and your win ratio will be affected unless you have them. Next, one thing that was incredibly brutal about playing on this free-to-play account was having to choose between crew skills, either having repairs on your tanks or having concealment on your vehicles. I felt that I was constantly outspotted by my opponents, which is something that never happens on my pay-to-win account. On my main account, I have things like situational awareness, recon, brothers in arms. I'm using a premium consumable, and that allows me to use coated optics on vehicles. Now, one thing that I found that I could do as a free-to-play player is lose all of these advantages, but just use binoculars instead of the coated optics. But of course, when you're making aggressive advancing plays, then you do get spotted out. And so what I found as a free-to-play player is that I had to take a bit more of a defensive approach to the advance, quite often stopping on a ridge, setting up your binoculars, finding a bush. And while you do get caught out, you can't just have this reckless all-in approach that I could do if I was playing on my main account. One thing that I was quite chuffed with, however, is that once I got all these vehicles elited and I started to have at least 6 cents on my commander and I had my first skill complete, I really started to hit a groove with some of these mid-tier medium tanks. And even playing these vehicles completely free to play, I was able to get a 66% win ratio, i.e. winning twice as many games as I was losing without spamming gold left, right and center. However, I know that if I had been playing on my main account, this would have been higher. If I'd been able to fire those premium rounds, if I'd been using camouflage on my vehicle, if I'd had all the crew skills, there's no doubt that this kind of 66% win ratio could have been more like 70%. And so while there's no doubt that there is certainly a pay-to-win element to World of Tanks, it's definitely not the be-all and end-all as to whether a player is good or whether a player is bad. And so, all in all, ladies and gents, what do I think about trying to attempt one of these mission marathons? Well, even if you are a dedicated player, it's going to take you 60 hours. It really is. And if you can't invest 60 hours over a 2-week period, then don't even bother begin to try it. Try and get towards stage 4 or stage 5 and just realize that you're going to have to spend 20 euros on the account to be able to pick up the vehicle. I think that would be a far better use of your time. The idea of just playing about for an hour or two each day on average over the week and spending 20 euros is far better than the idea of having to play for 4 hours on average or 5 hours on average and just saving that 20 euros. But obviously, for me, this was not about about saving the money. This was about more of proving a point. Can you play World of Tanks free to play? Can you be competitive while doing so? But more importantly, can you prove Kevin Wang wrong? And yes, looks like I can. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a thumbs up. But if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know in the comments what you think about my insanity over the last couple of weeks. Did you try and give it a go yourself? If you did, were you successful? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.